NASA and Blue Origin are preparing for a Mars mission this summer. The American Space Agency and Jeff Bezos' privately held company have announced that 2 satellites bound for Martian orbit will be aboard the New Glenn rocket during its second launch of the year. The mission payload is called ESCAPADE, an acronym for Escape and Plasma Acceleration and Dynamics Explorers. It consists of 2 identical compact satellites, each roughly the dimensions of a household washing machine. These spacecraft were constructed by Rocket Lab, another commercial aerospace firm. The scientific instruments housed within were engineered by the Space Sciences Laboratory at the University of California, Berkeley. ESCAPADE's objective is to investigate how solar wind interacts with Mars's magnetic field. In other words, the mission will examine how the planet reacts to conditions in space weather. This will be accomplished through synchronized measurements taken from multiple positions in Martian orbit. New Glenn represents Blue Origin's inaugural orbital launch vehicle. It's a heavy-lift rocket, ranking among the most powerful boosters currently operational worldwide. Originally, New Glenn was scheduled to carry the ESCAPADE mission late last year during the rocket's maiden voyage. That scenario was quite uncommon, since typically mission planners avoid placing valuable payloads aboard completely untested rocket designs. But ESCAPADE required an affordable transportation option to Mars, and Blue Origin was seeking a technical validation of their rocket's capabilities. However, the plan fell through. Rocket Lab transported the satellites from California to Florida and prepared them for departure. But complications in getting New Glenn to the launch facility caused them to miss the Mars launch window. New Glenn ultimately lifted off in January of this year, carrying Blue Origin's own demonstration payload, which was successfully deployed into orbit. The rocket's booster attempted a controlled water landing on a drone ship, but it detonated at some point during the descent. Such failures are typical for inaugural attempts. Now, for the second time, Rocket Lab is readying their spacecraft for transport to Florida. The launch is scheduled for sometime between August and September. You may be asking how they can postpone a Mars mission by a full year when transfer windows only occur once every 2 years. That's a reasonable question. What space agencies typically target when traveling from Earth to Mars is the home-on-transfer window, which represents the most fuel-efficient path between the 2 worlds. It's the period when the planets are nearest to each other in their solar orbits. However, that's not the exclusive route to Mars. What makes this particular launch distinctive is that relative to the payload's mass, New Glenn has enormously excessive power for this operation. Each ESCAPADE satellite has a mass of approximately 120 kilograms or 250 pounds. While New Glenn lacks an official payload capacity specification for Mars injection trajectories, it can deliver 7,000 pounds to lunar orbit. And reaching Martian orbit requires only marginally more energy. Therefore, this mission operates nowhere near the rocket's maximum capability. Scientists at the University of California have been developing what they characterize as sophisticated trajectory plans for delivering their payload to Mars outside the conventional transfer window. Last year, the mission director outlined a kidney-shaped orbital pattern that would direct the spacecraft outward to Earth's Sun-Earth L2 Lagrange point, which currently serves as the James Webb Space Telescope's location. Subsequently, ESCAPADE would loop back around Earth to gain momentum from our planet's gravitational field before proceeding deeper into the solar system. This approach should deliver the probes to Mars by September 2027. The prolonged journey will enable the twin probes to gather additional scientific data during transit. They can continue monitoring solar wind at different locations around Earth, where such measurements are rarely conducted. Consequently, we may actually gain new insights about our own planet as well. University of California scientists note that the extended voyage will subject the spacecraft to increased radiation exposure, but they don't anticipate this will create any complications. The information they ultimately collect upon reaching their destination could help us comprehend what occurred to the Martian atmosphere. Mars once resembled Earth much more closely, with mild temperatures and liquid water on its surface. Then the Martian atmosphere vanished, and the planet became desiccated. This isn't the only New Glenn launch this year that Blue Origin has planned beyond Earth's vicinity. The company has also scheduled a lunar landing mission for 2025. They're currently assembling the first version of their Blue Moon Lander Mark 1 with an intended launch window in October or November. This would serve as a precursor mission for their Blue Moon Mark 2, which is designed to transport astronauts to the lunar surface for NASA's Artemis 5 mission. Mark 1 is a smaller cargo configuration, but it would still become the largest spacecraft to touch down on the surface if it succeeds. It's marginally larger than the historic Apollo lunar module. Now, how feasible is this plan? Well, New Glenn has proven it can deliver a payload to Earth orbit, which is encouraging. Progressing from there to lunar orbit isn't particularly challenging. That's been accomplished numerous times. But executing a moon landing represents a genuine challenge, regardless of who attempts it, unless you're China, evidently. Most other recent missions have attempted lunar landings and encountered failures. So if Blue Origin also fails, that doesn't necessarily indicate they're incompetent. It simply places them on par with the average, which admittedly still isn't great. But spaceflight is genuinely difficult. Speaking of ambition, consider this recent development. South Korea has announced plans to construct their own lunar base. South Korea is certainly a less prominent participant in the space competition, but they're far from trailing the field. The Korean government actually created a space administration of their own in 2024, KASA, which is structured to coordinate space research initiatives, policy development, and industry collaborations. KASA also operates their own orbital launch vehicle, NURI. It was completely designed and built in South Korea and conducted its first launch in 2021. This achievement makes South Korea the 7th nation to date to possess the independent capability to place a satellite with a massive at least 1 metric ton into Earth orbit. NURI can transport up to 3 metric tons. It's a solid rocket, but still insufficiently powerful to reach the moon. In 2022, South Korea deployed their first probe to lunar orbit. It launched aboard a SpaceX Falcon 9 and remains operational today. The next major achievement is scheduled for 2032. KASA intends to place its first robotic lander on the lunar surface. Then, by 2040, they will have created an even more advanced lunar lander with the objective of establishing an economic base on the moon by 2045. Simultaneously, they also have intentions to land on Mars in 2045 as well. Ambitious, certainly. But that's the fundamental nature of space exploration. Elon Musk believes he can transport people to live in a Martian city within the same time frame. So Korea appears quite reasonable by that comparison. Constructing a moon base is also currently fashionable. There's obviously NASA's entire Artemis program. China and Russia have an extensive plan for a nuclear-powered robotic research facility. A few years ago, India announced they would commence construction on a moon base in 2047. So if everyone's projections are accurate, then it's going to become quite congested up there. But once again, spaceflight is genuinely difficult. On that subject, the SpaceX Starship is experiencing some challenges at present. Following a spontaneous explosion last month during a standard test that reduced the Starship orbiter to mangled metal, the company is approaching a return to normal operations. Their engine testing facility for the vehicle remains a scorched ruin, but the team at Starbase has devised a temporary workaround. Essentially, they simply need to establish a mounting platform where the Starship can be fueled and the engines can be static-fired. This allows them to confirm that their next vehicle is at least somewhat less prone to explosion than the previous one. Not that every other Starship launched this year hasn't also exploded, but they at least reached space beforehand, so they need to at least return to that performance level. Naturally, Starbase has a launch pad where a rocket can be ignited, but that mounting system is engineered specifically for the Super Heavy booster. You cannot simply position a Starship orbiter on top, but apparently you can fabricate an adapter. And that's precisely what SpaceX has accomplished. Work crews have just finished constructing a new ring structure that can be installed between the ship and the launch mount to ensure proper compatibility. This means Starship testing is resuming, and if successful, that essentially returns us to approximately where operations stood a month ago. Elon Musk remains optimistic, though, as he consistently is. He posted on July 14th that Starship will launch again in roughly 3 weeks, which is about 2 weeks from the present moment. Now, if we account for Elon time, that suggests we might witness a launch in 4 weeks. So it's best to remain attentive. On that note, if you're still watching this video right now, yes, we're breaking the fourth wall here. If you enjoyed the video, then you might consider becoming a channel member here on YouTube, and we're introducing a new membership benefit to enhance the offering. Channel members now receive early exclusive access to our custom-built 3D renderings. You also get to see what we all look like in actual life and future benefits that remain undetermined but will likely be quite compelling. Regardless, if you appreciate the channel and you wish to support us, this is an excellent way to help us continue producing larger, higher quality videos for you. So be sure to check the link below in the description and join today.